Probably can't talk.
She might not be able to talk, but you in the building. So I'm excited. Welcome to our class on building wealth that outlives you. We're going to have a real good time today. I'm going to give you everything I got. In this hour that I got y'all with me, it's going to be fun. We're going to talk about some things that a lot of people don't necessarily talk about, but also things that a lot of people kind of don't think through all the way. So we're going to start from A to Z. I'm going to walk you through the whys, the hows, and the practical steps to get there. And then if you have any further questions after this, you can meet with me or you can meet with Maggie, and we will go over how to get you where you need to get to. It is going to be fun. We are going to have some fun on the call. So feel free in the chat. Maggie will be my moderator for today. And she will, if there's questions in the chat that I can't see because I'm presenting and that I need to field, I will pick those questions up and I will answer them as we go through this. One thing that I tell everybody is that I want this to be interactive. So I want you to feel like you can talk, raise your hand, do whatever. We'll get your questions out there and we will make sure that you get the answer you need because you did decide to come to this class. You have taken the first step into building wealth that is going to outlive you, because if you didn't get into this class today, you might be lost in the woods. So we gonna make sure we get all of you guys right. So we ain't gonna have no further ado. All you guys that are here right now, Ms. Mildred, welcome. Maggie, everybody that's here right now, thank y'all so much for being on time. I'm very much a prompt and on-time person as well. So I absolutely love that. So we're going to get started. I just got to share my screen over here and to make sure that I can do that. And then we'll get started and kicked off. I am going to be asking questions. So if you can't talk right now, drop them in the chat or, meet with us afterwards and we'll get all that going. So I am going to share my screen. Okay, and then we're gonna go to my presentation that I put together all on my own. Okay, and I'm gonna get me out of the way. So the name of our class is Build Wealth That Outlives You, a practical guide to building generational wealth, right? So why is this important? It's been one of the catchphrases for all the zeitgeist over the last year, 5 years, as we went in from the pandemic and everybody started finding alternative ways to make money. And they found out that some of their jobs ain't secure as they thought they would be. People started talking about building generational wealth, right? I got to build generational wealth. And a lot of times that conversation starts at, hey, you know what? I just need a lot of money, and if I have a lot of money, I have generational wealth. That's kind of part of the scenario, but it's not the whole deal. Because if I have a bunch of money and I don't show the next generation on how to manage it or be a good steward of all the money, then the money evaporates from one generation to the next. Right now, we have the most first year or first generation millionaires ever in this time in American history. There has never been more time in American history where we have first generation millionaires, right? However, the odds of that making it to the next generation without proper planning and without the proper steps is very, very slim. We have a lot of first generation millionaires, but we don't have a lot of second, we don't have a lot of third. We know people like the Rockefellers and maybe the Morgan Stanleys of the world. Those families have wealth because they built systems that allow them to continue the wealth to perpetuate and to continue to go. So I wanted to do a practical class on how do we build that within our community, starting where we are right now. So everything always starts with the fundamentals. And one of those fundamentals is, who the heck is this guy talking on the screen right now, right? So about Lee Oliver Jr. Yes, I'm a junior. There is a Lee Oliver Sr. running around out here terrorizing people. I'm just I love my dad. He's an old school dude. And we are Florida native, born and raised. So if you hear the accent, that's why. Okay, I'm sorry. If Florida got its various dialects and things like that, most people in Florida have a New York Floridian accent because everybody a transplant. But I was born in Florida, raised in Florida. I was born in Ocala, Florida. Moved to Tampa, not by myself, but with my family. When I was 7 years old, when I moved here, didn't know I'd be here forever, but my wife trying to kick me out because she's like, I want to see seasons change and things like that. And I'm like, I like Florida still, but we'll see. Maybe we'll go to Maggie route and end up in a whole nother state. But we'll see how that happens as well. I before I was a financial planner and a financial coach, I worked as an electrician for 12 years in the IBEW. That's the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. So I was a tradesperson for 12 years. I was a foreman in that field. I did a lot of HVAC controls. So I have seen how it looks to just not be an entrepreneur, but also how to make that transition from being an entrepreneur, from being a normal W-2 worker to an entrepreneur, because I did do that for 12 years. I became a financial coach in 2016. I got licensed in insurance and investment. Our firm also does mortgages. We do 529 college savings accounts. We do a lot of different things. And in 2023, I actually opened up my own brokerage with the firm that I work with. That's called Primerica. And now we've been growing and we've been doing some amazing things, and we're able to kind of network and market with people like Maggie to make sure that we create overall packages for people whenever they sit down with us. And I also got married to the amazing Christy Oliver. You can see her there. That's us in the picture. That was in 2017. That's not last year. But I wanted to leave the best for last. So she's looking around my corner. I get some brownie points right now. I wanted to say the best for last because having my wife by my side has been one of the things that has actually helped me get to where I am, propel me to the heights that I am. And I couldn't have done any of this stuff in any amount of the time that I've done it without her and her support. So that's not one of the keys to generational wealth, but it's like my extra one. Okay. Get somebody that supports you. They will get you to generational wealth or keep your butt on the path to get there. So that's a little bit about me, but I always want to kind of find out, about people that are here. So you can type in where you're from in the chat if you're available, or you can even, type in where you were born at. I know Maggie know a lot of island people, so some might be countries I can't name, but I always want to know where people are from and where they're and everything like that. So I do appreciate you guys and being on. So next, we gonna hop right into this. So I put this in here because we if you've flown before, you know that the person when you get ready to take off and nobody don't even be listening to the stewardess or the flight attendant or whatever, right? They just be kind of glossing over that part. But they do a little presentation for you. Sometimes it's on the back of a screen. If you in a fancy airplane, if you take Spirit, then you just hold on to the side handles and hope you're gonna live. But I'm just messing with Spirit. But anyways, the flight attendants are always going to tell you, this is what you do in the case of emergency. One of the things is they say, put the oxygen mask on yourself first. If you don't do this, and a lot of people don't think this through, but imagine that it is an emergency situation. And you're like, oh my God, emergency plane going down, all this stuff. And then you don't put the oxygen mask on yourself. You're hyperventilating. You pass out. Can you put or help anybody else on the plane if you're passed out? Absolutely not.
No.
Right. So if you can't help anybody out, then it's done. It's already over. So you have to put the oxygen mask on yourself first. If we're talking about building generational wealth, what that means is that you have to make sure that you are building wealth for yourself before you talk about passing it down for the next generation. I said before, there are a lot of first generation millionaires, but we got to get to be the first generation millionaires so we can have a second and a third and a fourth. So we have to put the oxygen mask on ourselves first. And that's what this first part is about. So if you don't build your financial house right, you can't teach your children how to be homeowners. Okay. So this happens in every presentation that I do, no matter whether I'm talking to somebody that's already wealthy or I'm talking to somebody who's just starting out. They have to understand how to build their financial house right. So at the bottom part of the foundation of your financial house is going to be protecting your income, and it's with term life insurance. Now, we say protect your income, and the reason why we say protect your income is because if you do not protect your income, everything else that you're trying to build crumbles and falls down. Because everything that you're trying to do when you're talking about building wealth deals with money or assets. And if you do not have an active flow of money or assets coming in, it becomes very difficult to build it, let alone leave it for someone else. So first and foremost, you have to protect yourself, because whether you live right now and you plan on living for a long time, everybody know their birth date. Nobody don't know their death date. Okay. Everybody think they're going to live forever, but The world might have other plans for you. Now, for the most part, we all gonna be here for a long time, but we still have to protect from the downside. And out of everything else here on this list, the one thing that I can't fix that you can mess up as a financial planner is the you not being alive. I can't resuscitate you, wake you back up, say, hey, sign this life insurance, and then let you die. Okay. I can't fix that if you don't get it right. Everything else I can kind of fix after if we mess it up. So we protect your income first because that's the thing that's going to allow us to accumulate and build generational wealth. We then need to have a budget, an emergency fund, and a will. If we don't know what's coming in and what's going out, it becomes very hard for us to start to build assets because we're not maintaining what we have right now. The second thing is we all live in the real world. Okay. And in the real world, I like rainbows, gumdrops, and lollipops and all that other stuff. That's nice and sweet. However, the world be worlding. Okay. And emergencies will happen. And we can't act like they won't happen. So if we know emergencies are going to happen, then we need to make sure we're protecting ourselves from that and we have emergency funds saved. Key rule, get 1 month of your income put aside that you don't have to dip your hand in the cookie jar and take out money that's just sitting there in case of an emergency. So if I have 1 month in the beginning, now I have something to build. To be completely bulletproof, I need 3 to 6 months of money put aside so that at that point, I know that anything that happens that can't be taken care of with, deductible from an insurance or something like that, I can completely handle. And the last part, and this part goes into building generational wealth, is having a will and a trust and those things like that. And the reason why this is important, because if you build something, you want it to stand the test of time. So you need to understand the process of how things get divided out and who's going to be good stewards of the things that you created and you built. If you do not have a will in place or a trust, which is also part of the will, like ethos as well, it becomes very difficult to build generational wealth past one generation because when you pass away, you lose control of the assets traditionally. However, if you have a trust, you can still control the assets whether you are here or not, because the trust is its own entity that you set up the rules for that can then protect itself from kids maybe sticking their hand and taking all the money out and doing all the stuff that they do. So those are the foundational pieces. The next thing is you want to always work on being debt free or paying off your debt fast as you can. The reason why is because debt usually is working against us on our wealth building journey, meaning debt is going to cost us money, whereas investments, properties, things like that help us build money. So if we have something costing us money while we're trying to build money, we might be spinning our wheels instead of actually moving forward when we're talking about building wealth. So you want to have a plan to accelerate and pay off your debt. The next thing is you want to focus on is having money for retirement. Look, building generational wealth is amazing, but if you can't retire yourself, you're probably not going to have enough money to leave anybody else. So we have to make sure that we are working on getting enough money for retirement so that once we know that number, we know how much surplus we need in order to leave something for the next generation. If we do not have enough money for our retirement, all the wealth that we build in our lifetime will go away. And then everybody will be starting at zero in the next generation. Another way to mitigate cost and build generational wealth is to have college savings for your children. If your children are planning on going to post-secondary school, college, trade school, things like that, it is important that you start to put money away right now so that you can take away some of those costs and continue to build wealth as their school is already paid for. Last thing is you want to enjoy life. Okay. So you got to have some other goals and dreams in your life that are important, that you like, that you love, that you just really want to get to. So the point is to build your house from the ground up and get to the top of the house sooner than later, but have a solid foundation in the bottom. What I always tell people is whenever people have these fixer up shows where they're Chip and Joanna, that's my wife's favorite, she loved him. Whenever you have these fixer up shows, whenever they come in to do the makeover or whatever, they don't come in the house and say, okay, looks nice, tear it all down, chip up the foundation, let's start over from scratch. That's not what they say. They come in and say, well, okay, let's make this an open concept. Let's knock out a wall here. Let's make this nice. They never talk about chipping up the foundation. If they do, then you got some real issues, and that episode end up with them getting a new house. Okay. They leave it. Okay. But for the most part, the foundation is solid. It's made to be solid so you can change everything in the top rooms and still have a house that's functional that works. We don't want to always be chipping up our foundation when we're trying to build generational wealth, because if we always go through and we're chipping up our foundation whenever we're trying to build generational wealth, what happens is we never get there because we're always starting over and over and over again. And if and these are the things that stop most people from building generational wealth. And if you do have questions, I just want to reiterate, drop them in the chat. Maggie would moderate for me and give me the questions as they come through, because I can't always see them. But I do want this to be interactive for everybody who is just coming into the room, or they've been here for a while. You got some time, you can chat. This is supposed to be interactive because I ain't holding no secrets. If you got questions, I'm gonna take the time at the end to do that. But I did want to go through some foundational steps. So this is what the foundation of you building generational wealth looks like. It looks like you getting your stuff right first. But I'm going to take it a little step further and give you some details on how to get these things in place. So the first thing is, it was the bottom of the chart there. You should be building millionaires in your families, whether you are here or not. Your family should be millionaires. Now, how does that happen, Lee? Well, number one, you need to protect what you have right now. Essentially, everybody who is trying to build generational wealth needs to have life insurance in place. Now, this is not the way that I want to make my family millionaires. Okay. I want to be here to see it and enjoy it. Okay. But if I am not able to be here, the mission didn't change. If you really do want to build generational wealth, it's either going to come because you left them the money or you built it and then now you can pass it on. So one of the things is you got to protect yourself. So what I did is, this is a 35-year-old woman that I put a quote in, nothing crazy, but $1 million of coverage, meaning that if she passes away today or tomorrow or in the next 30 years, her family will instantly be millionaires. And it's $102 a month. If you are going to build generational wealth, you need to have a plan so that if you don't make it to the end goal for the strategies that I'm going to show you, that you have a plan to have money there for your family so they can invest it and do the things that I'm going to talk about as well. So it doesn't cost a lot of money to have $1 million worth of coverage if you do it the right way. And the reason why you do it this way is so that you can get the million at a low cost, but you also leave yourself more money left over to build the assets, because I never plan on using this life insurance. I plan on being here for 40, 50, 60 years. I plan on building the generational wealth myself. But in the meantime, while I'm working on building it, I need to make sure that my family is going to be a millionaire no matter what. So that's why I get coverage at a low cost. And we use term insurance to do this for the period of time that we need it, while we're building, while we're investing, while we're getting the assets. We use term life insurance for that period of time at a low cost, so we have more money to put towards the things that are going to cost us more money in the future, which is investing in our accounts. And also, just to put this into context, you all probably roll around in a hunk of metal, whether it is gas powered or electric or hydrogen or something like that. Usually, when you roll around in that hunk of metal in Florida, by law, you should have life insurance. Now, a lot of jokers don't have it here, but that's why you get uninsured motorists. That's a whole nother class. We ain't gonna get into that today. But you should, if you have car insurance on that hunk of metal that you drive around in, it's usually worth more. You usually pay more than $102 a month, right? And if you pay for a piece of metal that drives you around, that depreciates over time, two, three, $400 a month for that, so you have the privilege of riding around, you should pay at least $100 to have something that, if something happens to you, it replaces your income, the car, pay off the mortgage, and leaves a nest egg that we can put into a trust for somebody else, so that that can be built and left for the next generation as well. So it is important that you cover yourself now while you're building the generational wealth in the future. So that's the first thing.
So,
The
Lee,
next thing, go
before
ahead.
you go on, one question. Can you go back? So you're saying that the two ways to leave the next generation a millionaire is to protect your income by having life insurance at the bare minimum, while you're also building an asset that you can have the $1 million to leave for them. Is that correct?
Correct. Absolutely correct, Maggie. And it's important to cover both bases. When I work with entrepreneurs, because I work with a lot of entrepreneurs, they're like, listen, my business gonna blow up. I got willpower, I got determination, ain't nothing stopping me. We gonna make this thing happen and da 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 da. I 100% believe them every single time. The only thing that can stop them is them not being here. And sometimes them not being here is something beyond their control. Some truck in Florida might decide to make a U-turn in the median, and you're happen to be driving and you didn't know that it was going to be your last day because of somebody else's action that you could not avoid. But if you are here and you do have the determination, I 100% believe you're going to get the way you say you was going to go. So I'm going to protect for both situations. So excellent point, Maggie. That is absolutely correct. So
Thank you.
after we talk about that, we're going to talk about the foundation and the fundamentals again. Most generational wealth plans fall apart because of the little things. Budget first, then build. I should say then, not the. Budget first, then build, right? This is a budget worksheet. You are going to get this in the release materials after this class. You'll get all the stuff that I'm going to talk about here. But if you do not put together a solid budget, it is almost impossible for you to put aside assets in a way that's going to allow the assets to grow in a way that's going to be consistent, as well as a way that is going to make sure that you get to your end result. Budgeting is one of the things that doesn't cost anybody any money, but costs you the most when you don't do it correct in the future. Everybody can take a sheet like this, fill out all the stuff, and find out what's coming in, what's leaving, and what they're missing out on. So if we know that we need to do the small things first, let's do the small things first. The reason why most people's budgets fail is because they leave stuff out of them. That's why the budget worksheet that I'm going to give you after this class goes over kind of everything that you might have as an issue. I want to know every single detail. Budgets are not an indictment if you are a good person or a bad person. Look, we all spend money on stuff that we might, not need to be spending money on. The point is to recognize it and know it and see how important it is in the grand scheme of your plans to build generational wealth. Look, if you like to like spend money on stuff that don't, build assets later on, that's okay. But understand that it might be costing you the ability to build your generational wealth if you don't make some cutbacks in these areas or decide to make more money so you can fuel the generational wealth part as well as have the fun that you want to have. This is not saying that you don't have any fun while you're doing it. You absolutely should have fun while you are building, working, and doing the things you need to do. It just shouldn't be this huge part of your overall lifestyle because you need to make sure that you're putting money away for the future. So the first thing is get a solid budget that you can work with and you can use. This is where I usually have most of the questions, having a budget. So get a solid budget that you can build, that you can use. And if you got questions about that, we'll take questions on that as well, or just raise your hand and we'll go over what it looks like to build a budget. The next thing, don't just create it, keep it, right? And I think I didn't go two. Yeah, I want one. Okay. Don't just create it, keep it. If you create wealth, you control the rules. Having a will and trust in place allows you to control the assets beyond when you are here to make sure they do not go or do not happen. What I tongue tie myself to make sure they do what you want them to do. Okay. So the only way you can control money, wealth, assets that you built right now is by having it inside of a trust that creates a set of rules of what you want to happen with the money. One of the reasons that the Rockefellers and the Kennedys and all of those people still have money is, one, they built a complete massive amount of wealth in a period of time. But number two, they all have trust funds that have money that's there, that's going to stay there, that's going to last for generation to generation to generation. There are rules on when the trust pays out money, who gets the money out of the trust, when do they have access to it, and the trust is still being invested so that the money continues to perpetuate and continues to grow. If you're going to build generational wealth, you have to have money that has rules around it. So you want to make sure that you have a will put in place, not only so that you know what happens when you leave things and it doesn't cost you money to go through probate and all these other avenues that have to happen when you don't have directions in place, but also having a trust so that you can secure what you put in there and avoid some taxes. I ain't gonna say avoid taxes because you can never avoid taxes, but you can minimize taxes and shelter some of your money from taxes. Maggie will get on my head for that. Okay. But ultimately, you want an entity that you can manipulate and do the things you need to do for whatever your goals are. So don't just create it, keep it. The next thing is you need to get to the point where you secure the bag. Now, this is a common phrase that everybody uses: secure the bag, secure the bag, secure the bag. Essentially, if you're going to secure the bag, number one, we've already done part of that. If you've gotten solid quality life insurance, you know that if something happens to you today or tomorrow, there is going to be money that is going to be paid out to your beneficiaries. So you got that one part. The second part is we now have to go into how do we create the wealth now that we've already taken care of ourselves and we don't make it. And there's a few different options for creating the wealth. One, you hit the lottery. Now, I'm not telling anybody to bank on this method of creating wealth. Okay. Hitting the lottery is highly unlikely for most people. I live in Florida. You got like a 10-time chance of getting struck by lightning than actually hitting the lottery. And getting struck by lightning is just really this slim of a chance, even though I live in the lightning capital of the world. Okay. So we're not going to bank on that. We have to have actionable steps that we can take so that as we go through the steps and as we start to build, we can see the accumulation of the money. But also, we need to have a plan on how we compensate ourselves and pay the money back out. So, this is where we get really into building generational wealth. So, the first thing is we got to do is we got to create the portfolio that is going to fit what we need to do. So, creating the portfolio is about discipline and using the right tools. So, for most people, and this is going to be very hard to see, but I'm going to send this out to you. And if you are on a mobile device, you can take and pinch the screen out and it will blow up any part of the screen that you needed to see. If you're on a big screen, you probably can see this. Okay. But I'm going to send out all of this as well so you can see it also. But one of the tools that we can use when we're talking about building generational wealth, and this is if we are not making over, I believe it is $150,000 a year of adjusted gross income, actually, yeah, adjusted gross income, then you can use a Roth IRA. It is a tool that allows you to invest money into mutual funds, stocks, bonds, any kind of anything you can think of, and it allows your money to grow over time without being taxed as it is growing. One of the things that we always have to minimize or avoid if we can is taxes, because taxes eat away at your wealth. And this is why we have people like Maggie to help us navigate our goals with what her company does at Secured Financials, of making sure that they move around the tax code in the way that they need to use it to benefit them and do the things it needs to do. It doesn't mean that we don't pay taxes at all, but it does mean we use the tools at our disposal to get there. A lot of people will tell you, like, okay, well, I'm gonna avoid taxes altogether by this and that. You live in America. You do not avoid taxes. Okay. You minimize them or you move them in different ways, but you don't avoid them altogether. We pay taxes in some way, shape, or form, whether you are a business owner or you are a W 2 employee, taxes are going to get paid at some form in some way. So, what we want to do is we want to minimize that and we want to maximize our ability to grow money. So, right now, the limit of money that you can put into a Roth IRA in a year is $7,000. It has gone up. It probably will continue to go up, but it has gone up over time. So $7,000 or $583 a month. Now, the next thing that I get is, Lee, I don't have an extra $583 a month to invest and put into an IRA. Okay, we need to budget and see where the money's going. But number two, we might need to make more income. And you can do this in a variety of ways. We can get a side hustle. We can actually build a business ourselves. We can actually find ways to make extra income so that we have money to put aside for the future to build and grow this thing. So this is me saying that somebody, and the example that I used was 35 for the life insurance. This is me saying somebody saving money from the time they're 35 to the time that they're 60, which is exactly the year that this would be a tax-free vehicle for everything in the account. If they did that and they put money into this account, and I'll even tell you what investments these are that have done about 13% over this period of time, as well as grown to $1.1 million, then at that point, we now can talk about retirement. Why? Because we've accumulated over $1 million and we've also got it tax free. You don't know what the tax code is going to be. Neither does Maggie know what it's going to be in 25 years. I'm sorry, I don't got a crystal ball. Tax codes change with administrations, sometimes very rapidly, like we're seeing right now. Sometimes they change very gradually, but tax codes change all the time. You don't want your wealth depending on the tax code fully if you can avoid it. So you insulate yourself from the tax code by using the tools that they have right now. A Roth IRA is a tool from the government that they have to follow the rules of for later. So I now have $1.1 million of tax-free money. Okay. 1.1 million. Now, Lee, 1.1 don't sound like a lot. How am I going to live off that? It's amazing that you asked me because I'm gonna get to that. But but you want to use the tools that's available to you to maximize where you're putting your money and how you're doing this. The average market overall earns about 10%. What I did here is not even the most aggressive thing that I have. This is 13%, which allows you to kind of kick the market's butt at 30% better. But I just wanted to show you this so that you can see what it takes to generate $1 million. It takes $583 a month for 25 years in an account that earns you 13%. That will generate you $1.1 million. So everybody can be a millionaire. Now, during that time period, you've been covered through life insurance all that time. Now I've been covered for life insurance. I now have $1 million. I have a decision to make. Either I can keep my life insurance or I can drop my life insurance because I now am self-insured because I have a whole $1 million myself. Or if I do decide to keep life insurance, I can afford to pay for it because I got $1 million, right? But we're talking about building generational wealth here. That's your part. The second part of what you need to do is you need to invest for your kids early or the family members that you love early. So your kids have a longer period of time than you have to accumulate their money. So if your kids have a longer period of time than you have to accumulate your money, then what you need to do is you need to start early. So what I say, invest money for your kids early. If you're a business owner, put your kids on the payroll. Okay. Maggie didn't see that and she didn't see the quotation. Okay. But put your kids on the payroll. Okay. And Maggie can help you if you're trying to do that. But the government doesn't usually come out and audit your children. If your kids earn money, if your kids earn money by cutting lawns,
Put them on payroll. That is definitely one of the strategies that we use. If they're under 18, you put them on payroll. I will just kind of allude to the benefits of it. You get to take that deduction. That's tax-free income to them. So additional deduction for you, tax-free income for them, and it overall reduces your liability. And because they have earned income, now, Lee, what can they do?
they can now put money into a Roth IRA and have tax-free money later on. So let's say you only paid your children $100 a month and you took the deduction that Maggie talked about, but you then turned around and took the money that you paid them and that money got put into an investment account for them for 40 years. What would happen? Well, your kids would then accumulate a little bit over $700,000 over that period of time. And that money would be tax-free money for them because it's inside of a tax sheltered retirement program, tax-free retirement program, really. But now I have created another $740,000 $740,000 of additional assets for my kids as they've been going along the way. And it took a lot less money for me to do it for them because they have a lot more time, and I can leverage the time in my benefit, right? So I have 700 something $1,000 for the kids that I've grown. I have 1.1 million I've grown for me. So now I'm really starting to see how building generational wealth is coming together because I put money aside for my kids. They have some tax-free money. I've got money for me, but I still need to retire. So this is where it goes to another level. So since I need to retire, how does that money work out for me? So the next phase is it's not about how much you save, it's about how you use what you save. Okay. So if I'm looking at how I use what I save, and I'm really thinking about this in a practical way, then what's happening at that point is I'm looking at how do I spend down my money? And you won't be able to see this chart here, but I am gonna send all this out to you so you can see it. But let's say we withdraw $6,667. Okay. Now, why am I using that number? Because that number equates to about $80,000 a year, which is what the average median income is in the United States right now. However, that's not what it's going to stay at. We know that inflation and the price of food, services, goods, things, they go up at about 3% a year. So, what a lot of people will do is they will save the money, but they won't prepare for how much future dollars they're going to have to spend. So if I'm preparing for that and the future dollars that I'm going to spend, I now start withdrawing my $1.1 million out of the account, starting at $6,667 a month, but also taking money out of the account for 30 years. I'm 60 years old when I start taking this money out. If I make it to 90, that's amazing. That's where I want to be. The average lifespan of an American adult is 86 for women, 84 for guys. I'm sorry, guys. Y'all, it's rough for us out here. But women typically live longer than men. So we know that if we make it to 90, there'll still be some money left over. But even if I take out $6,667 a month in the first year, raise that by 3% every year after that, I'm still left after it's all said and done because we don't just take the money out and put it in our bank account. We put it in an account that bears interest for us and continues to compound the money as we're taking it out. So we're not just letting the money sit. Now that we put the money somewhere where it still gets growth, but the growth is not astronomical like when we were growing, we protect our money by having assets that are going to pay us dividends every month or capital gains every month. Now we make our money to be more than what it was. So even after all of that, after 30 years, there's still $500,000 left in the account after we've taken money out of it for 30 years. Now, I take the 500,000 that I have left when I pass away, I make the kids the beneficiaries, or I send that money over to a trust where I have rules on it and keep it invested. And now the kids take their 700,000 that they've accumulated over the last 40 years, and now we're still at a million, even though we've spent down a lot of the money and we've saved and invested. Now, from there, we continue the same strategies of compounding that from that generation to the next generation, and we start to build the nest egg more and more and more. We make sure that our kids have life insurance when they are adults of $1 million or more. So even though they're still building it and they're adults, they now have $1 million to feed back into the fund. So now that if something happens to them, guess what? That money that they had, part of it can go into the trust and part of it will go out to pay their families, their beneficiaries, and the things that they had and they needed to take care of. And we continue to cycle until we build enough money so that at some point, the trust is on its own, it's continuing to perpetuate and have money go for us. And that's really how we go about building generational wealth because at the end of the day, because I did want to leave some time for questions, you got to get the basics out of the way. You need to invest early for your children and yourself, and you need to have a plan. If you do not have these things put in place, it becomes very difficult for us to build generational wealth and to get to the point where we can use the strategies that are really going to maximize what we're doing with our money and make sure that we're building the assets that are going to pay us no matter what. And in reality, that's really the end of my presentation. I know I finished like 15 minutes early because I wanted the last 15 minutes for question and answer segments. I will hop in the comments and see what you guys have. Um, if you have anything, except for Maggie telling people put everybody on payroll. Okay. And just going through, but I will also go back and leave us on this part right here, because this part right here is one of the incremental parts of you building wealth that outlives you. It's really getting your financial house in order. If you have not sat down with a financial professional to do this, I know a great one. His name is Lee Oliver. He amazing.
Yes, I can definitely vouch for that.
I also know another one, another great one. Her name is Maggie Montague. She is amazing as well. Me and Maggie grew up in the same business together, so I know she knows everything that I know, plus some, because she does the tax portion as well. So if you are on this call or you're watching the replay right now, and you have not sat down with a financial professional to get your financial house in order, please do so. I will tell you to sit down with me or Maggie. It is 100% free to sit down and find out what you have to do to get your finances in order. We have the software, we have the tools to put the pieces in place to make sure that whatever your goals are, we can get you there. You still have to bring the discipline and you have to bring the money to get the plans installed. We can't give you all the money every month, okay? But we can definitely give you the plan and we can show you how to implement the plan and we can coach you through the pieces of the process. Because if you do not have a plan and a coach to make sure you stay on track, it will become very difficult for you to continue to grow and expand and do the things that you need to do. So, financial house first, and then we build the rest of it.
Thank you so much, Lee. If
If
any of you
anybody,
have questions, you can definitely drop them in the chat. I'm going to stop the recording now.